walking with the ghost.
Few moments later.
Okay, so here I am just opening up the photo of the background picture I took, which is the picture of only the background without the items in it.
No matter which way you stay, you're out of my mind, out of my mind, out of my mind.
I'm gonna begin with one item, and for now it's just going to be the book, and then I'll move on to others. So what I'm doing now is I'm creating a layer for the book photo to be put in, and then after that I'm going to select the book photo, copy and paste it into the second layer, or layer number 1, sorry. Now that it's pasted, you can see that it's overlaying the background image, and if you press the I button on and off, you can kind of see that the book layer has less focus than the background photo does, so we're going to have to erase all of the space around it so that it doesn't, so that you don't see the difference, you know? So it's around these main parts that I'm going to be erasing behind the book and only leaving the background to be there. So here I'm gonna erase with the actual eraser on the layer. I'm not gonna do any masking because I know that I'm not gonna need these parts in the future and they need to be permanently deleted. If you close the background behind it, it shows like what parts of the picture you're actually going to need. And these little edges around the photo, they don't really matter if they're there, unless you know if my hand's there in the corner, I have to delete that. But as long as there isn't too big of a difference between the background and the first layer, then you don't need to work really hard to erase them and do really fine detail. However, if there is shading difference, you can either blur it out if it's not that big, or you will have to delete it, which is what I actually had to do, because the edges around the book are lighter than the actual background.
Thanks.
So now I'm using the pen tool to enable me to erase and select straight edges, which makes the cuts seem cleaner, and then I don't have to, you know, do a lot of attention to detail with my own hand. It's easier if you just use a pen tool. And all you have to do is connect the first and last dot together. Then you press selection and it says new selection. Click OK, and now it's a selection. And if you press delete, it should erase. And there you go. Okay, now once you view the background with it, again, there are still some minor parts that just don't look well, especially around the edges. They're brighter than they are with the background in it, and my hand is in it, so we're going to work on getting rid of those. To make it easier, create a mask, and then once you have that mask, you're just going to lightly go over those areas that you need to fix. Now the difference between using a mask and just erasing parts is you can bring them back. So on the left corner you can see how the color is black and behind it is white. For black, that's when you erase it, and for white, if you draw on white on any areas, you draw it back, and that's the main difference. I'm just using the pen tool again to get rid of my hand, and you select it, do all that stuff again, and if you find that the lines are not aligning with where you actually want it, then you can click the move tool and kind of move it to the left or to the right, or move it anywhere that adjusts it better. And if you're actually selected on layer 1 and you click the bucket tool and color it black, then it's the same thing as painting it black, you know, so then you can just paint the entire area black instead of clicking delete. And sadly, that makes it look just a little worse because there are parts that are not very clean. And you see that dark line? All you gotta do is really smooth it out with the paintbrush, and there you go. Now I'm gonna apply all the things that I mentioned before and just kind of tweak the photo a bit, add a little more pizzazz. No, I'm kidding. It's just cleaner now. And now it is time to upload our second photo for the edit. And I'm gonna choose one of the hand sanitizers just because they're very easy to do. And what I'm going for is one of the more blurred out ones because I'm kind of trying to show more perspective in the edit, if that makes sense. And so the process on this one is basically exactly the same. I'm going to copy and paste it into a new layer. I'm going to mask it. I'm going to go around the outlines with the pen tool, or maybe just erase it using the black and white pens. And so I'm just going to do a speed clip of everything that I'm doing so you can see that it's exactly the same. So skipping a little forward, this is what it would look like if all items were applied with the same techniques. I have a phone, a pen, the same sanitizer twice, but no one knows that, and then a book. So those are the basic steps behind how you can create this levitation idea. I did not need to add any shadows because when I took these photos, they didn't even cast any shadows on the table below them because I was so close to the camera when I took it, so I didn't really worry about that. But now I'm just going to add colors, make it seem a little more filtery. I'm gonna add a vignette, which you will see later on I call a vignette. Famous vignette. So how do you create a vignette, or also known as the vignette? You basically create another layer and mask, paint the entire thing black, change the opacity based on how black you want it on the outside. If you want it to have darker edges, then you just have to make it more opacity, and then if you want less, then yeah. And the basic idea behind this is you're going to erase the parts that you don't want black, which is being done right now. Now I'm just going to adjust the curves. You can honestly go anywhere with curves, as you can see right now. And I'm gonna aim for just making it a little darker and making the colors contrast a little more and have more saturation. So the rest of the process is just fixing and all the edges, blurring out parts that don't look good. It's the same concepts that were explained before, so I'm not going to go into detail on all of the processes and all the steps for it. This is beginning to be a very long video, so I am going to end it here. This is the final product photo that I have, and this is for experimentation for my personal project, so I hope you learned something, because I definitely did. Thank you to Amit for helping me out. I did not know many of these techniques before he talked to me about it, so thank you, and Have a good day.